Next on Sisterhood of the Second Act.
While February is Black History Month, our first guest says it is a culture that should be celebrated all year long. Anita James Price is a full-time volunteer at the Harrison Museum of African American History. She joins us today to tell us why you need to visit the museum. Several Virginia artists have loaned their art to us for the Sisterhood of the Second Act set. And today we will talk with two of these women who paint for very different reasons. We'll meet these women on this edition of Sisterhood of the Second Act, right after this.
Sisterhood of the Second Act is brought to you by looking for your first home or retirement home. Realtor Monica Nicely can help you find it. Whether you're moving in or out of the Roanoke region, call Monica 540-449-2019, 540-449-2019. Alcova Mortgage Loan Officer Jonathan Sweat helps you seal the deal with the loan to suit your needs with great rates and terms. Call Jonathan 540-314-8843, 540-314-8843.
Alcova Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID number 40508, MLSConsumerAccess.org. Terms and conditions apply. All loans subject to credit approval.
I'm going to be an oak tree.
I think I'll be a dogwood tree.
My kids said they'd be looking for a thorny tree from me.
With Evergreen, you can be a tree. Our biodegradable urn combines your ashes, natural soil additives, and a native tree of your choice. Be a tree and grow for tomorrow.
I want to be a tree.
Learn more at evergreenmemorialtrust.com.
Pat Lucas is committed to providing independent financial advice to help women and their families save money during this tax season. Call Pat at 540-798-8104, 540-798-8104. Securities and investment advisory services are offered solely through Equity Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, 4401 Starkey Road, Roanoke, Virginia 24018, 540-989-4600. Step out the door with confidence, ready to conquer the day. Whether you are going to the cafe down the street or headed into work, you know you will always look your best in Cabby Styles. Your stylist, Darlene Marshall, will help you pick the styles that make you sparkle. And Cabby has styles for all body types. Call Darlene at 540-330-6819, 540-330-6819, and follow her on Instagram at Dapper Darlin. Now from the Fox Radio Roanoke studio, here's Kathy Heberle.
Welcome to Sisterhood of the Second Act. I'm Kathy Heberle. The Harrison Museum of African American Culture is a state-of-the-art institution at Center in the Square in Roanoke. It tells the story of the role African Americans have played in settling Southwest and Central Virginia as it celebrates African American culture. Full-time museum volunteer Anita James Price joins us to tell us more. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Kathy, for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
My pleasure. How did the Harrison Museum of African American Culture get its start?
Okay. Well, the museum was originally housed in the Harrison School, which is located in Gainsboro on Harrison Avenue. To make a long story short, when the school was closed due to integration, a neighborhood activist by the name of Hazel Thompson Thomas felt that the school, the building itself, should be preserved, and she lobbied to make certain that it became a local Virginia on the Virginia registry. Mm-hmm. And from there, several community folks worked together along with TAP and some other community folks, and came about with the idea of having a cultural arts center in the Harrison School. That was our original location, yes.
Excellent. So Roanoke is a smaller city, but there have been some significant contributions. Can you tell us about them and give us some examples?
Absolutely. There are Roanoke has a wealth of hidden history. Oscar Michaud, the first, one of the first Black filmmakers, did some filming right here in Roanoke. Yes. There's a plaque downtown, I'm sorry, not in downtown, but in Gainesboro. Yes, that shows that this is where he did some of his work and where he lived. And speaking of where folks live, Oliver Hill also called Roanoke home and did some of his work here as well. And for folks who may not recognize the name of Oliver Hill, he was one of the architects of Brown versus Board of Education and used one of the cases that came out of Farmville about establishing that segregated schools were unconstitutional.
Excellent. And then also I hear names like Lucy Addison and also Henrietta Lacks.
Yes, yes. Now, Henrietta Lacks, we are especially proud to be affiliated with, as some of your viewers may have heard, that their Roanoke City Council just recently decided that the plaza across from the municipal building half of it would be named after Henrietta Lacks. Now, that is very significant because Henrietta lived here in Roanoke, and currently there is nothing that marks that she was a resident here, and her legacy is so profound because those who may have heard of the Gila cells, yes. All right, those came from Henrietta Lacks, and from her legacy, we've had so many medical
and scientific breakthroughs,
yes, including the polio vaccine.
That's right.
So we felt that it was no more than right that we give some honor to her legacy.
I'm so happy to hear that because I'm familiar with her. I was in chemistry research when I was working, so I am familiar with her. But I heard that the museum is spearheading a fundraising campaign as well. And we know why it's important to recognize her, but I think maybe it would be good to say exactly maybe how much you're looking to raise. And again, is
Absolutely.
that just going to the building?
So the funds that we're currently working on will go twofold. We want to, and before I go into that, I must give a recognition to our Vice Mayor, Trish White Boyd. Very good. Because our Vice Mayor has been so instrumental in really spearheading this whole effort. So we want to be able to erect a statue of Henrietta Lacks in the plaza. But then we want to take it a step further and recognize some of those hidden histories that are right here in Roanoke, and to make certain that those kinds of histories don't continue to be hidden.
That's wonderful.
Yes, so we have a twofold goal here.
Okay. We are talking with Anita James Price of the Harrison Museum. And what other types of exhibits can visitors encounter and experience?
We are a small museum, but we're small but mighty, and we're very proud of what we're able to highlight and showcase. We have 2 permanent exhibits that give the history of the medical community in Roanoke during segregation, the history of the Burrell Memorial Hospital and how that came about. Right. Then we also have a permanent exhibit of the educational environment for Roanoke City. That gives the history of Lucy Addison that you mentioned earlier, and how she was just a go-getter to make certain that the public education for African American students went beyond elementary and junior high school, and have helped to establish a high school for our students.
Excellent. I love this. So how does ensuring that an inclusive history of the Roanoke Valley is told impact the community as a whole?
Oh my goodness.
That's important.
It is important. Mm-hmm. Every time and every opportunity that people come into the museum, I think they go away learning a little bit more than what they thought they knew of our area and our city. Just yesterday, we had 50 young people from Salem High School that came in and spent an hour with us, learning the local history, learning about from whence they've come. And I say that not only for African American children, but for all races.
Exactly.
We learn from each other. And I think that's an important contribution that our museum gives.
I love that. And I also think it instills pride in everybody from this area. It's something to be very proud of as people that live in Roanoke. So I'm very glad that you offer these things. One of your missions is to educate young people. You mentioned that you did have a nice group of students. And again, why is that important? I think you touched on it, but just let's reinforce that.
Well, because, young people, like you said, they need to have that sense of pride.
Yes.
And for young people to go away learning, oh my goodness, I did not realize that I had this rich legacy of which I can stand on the shoulders of. And young people need to also have that sense of connectivity, that they can feel that, aha, I have something, and someone with whom I have a connection with. Right. So we're so very happy and so proud of what our young people, what we're able to give to our young people. I have a quote from Frederick Douglass that I'd love to, and it says, because I think it summarizes so much, it is easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. And if you think about that, the more we can give to our young people, the more we can give them that sense of pride, that sense of who am I as an individual, that is something that they can build upon.
These are excellent role models for these children. That's what I love about it.
For all children, yes.
We are talking with Anita James Price of the Harrison Museum of African American Culture. That is a long title, but very important to get that all in there. And how has the pandemic impacted the museum before we wrap up?
Sure. Well, as with everybody, we have had to do some adjustments. We had to cut back on some of our hours. We are only, I shouldn't say only, but we are open to the public Wednesdays through Saturdays from 10 to 3. However, if anybody wants to schedule a special tour, or if they can't get to us during those times, we are more than happy to be accommodating. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, we only have a few seconds left, but I do want really, really quickly, I think this is important for people before they come. What do you hope visitors to the museum take away from their visit?
I hope that they realize that Roanoke has so much to offer, and that when we learn from our past, we can continue to build upon our future.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you are more than well. Thank you.
We'll have a link to the Harrison Museum of African American Culture on our website, sisterhoodofthesecond-act.com. There's more Sisterhood of the Second Act ahead. Lee Coffman and Susan McLaren are responsible for much of the artwork on the Sisterhood of the Second Act set. We'll meet them after this.
Pat Lucas is committed to providing independent financial advice to help women and their families save money during this tax season. Call Pat at 540-798-8104, 540-798-8104. Securities and investment advisory services are offered solely through Equity Services Incorporated, member FINRA SIPC, 4401 Starkey Road, Roanoke, Virginia 24018, 540-989-4600.
I'm going to be an oak tree.
I think I'll be a dogwood tree.
My kids say they be looking for a thorny tree from me.
With Evergreen, you can be a tree. Our biodegradable urn combines your ashes, natural soil additives, and a native tree of your choice. Be a tree and grow for tomorrow.
I want to be a tree.
Learn more at evergreenmemorialtrust.com.
Step out the door with confidence, ready to conquer the day. Whether you are going to the cafe down the street or headed into work, you know you will always look your best in cabbie styles. Your stylist, Darlene Marshall, will help you pick the styles that make you sparkle. And Cabby has styles for all body types. Call Darlene at 540-330-6819, 540-330-6819, and follow her on Instagram at Dapper Darlin. Looking for your first home or retirement home? Realtor Monica Nicely can help you find it. Whether you're moving in or out of the Roanoke region, call Monica 540-449-2019, 540-449-2019. Alcova Mortgage Loan Officer Jonathan Sweat helps you seal the deal with a loan to suit your needs with great rates and terms. Call Jonathan 540-314-8843, 540-314-8843.
Alcova Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS ID number 40508, MLSConsumerAccess.org. Terms and conditions apply. All loans subject to credit approval.
There's more Sisterhood of the Second Act coming up after this.
Come on. You watch the news. Be prepared to pay more taxes. Then, if you owe back taxes or haven't filed in a few years, get ready. The IRS, the largest collection agency in the world, will be coming after you with the power to collect taxes by any means they want to. Hey, they can freeze your bank account, your passport, even padlock your business. Good times. Look, if the IRS claims you owe them $5,000 or more in back taxes and they're coming after you, don't panic. Call my friends at Get a Tax Lawyer first. Their job is to negotiate with the IRS and save you money. They're experts at it. That's all they do. And you can trust them. In some cases, they have reduced a $50,000 tax bill to less than $1,000. If you owe the IRS $5,000 or more in back taxes, call now for a free consultation.
Call 800-654-9116, 800-654-9116, 800-654-9116. That's 800-654-9116.
Once again from the Fox Radio Roanoke studio, here's Kathy Heberle.
Welcome back to Sisterhood of the Second Act. I'm Kathy Heberle. If you have visited sisterhoodofthesecondAct.com, then you have seen the art that acts as a backdrop for our interviews. Today, executive producer Denise Allen Membrano introduces us to two of the artists, Leah Coffman and Susan McLaren.
Meet Leah Coffman. She rediscovered an old love and turned it into a second act.
I have been drawing and painting from the days I was a child and have always loved artwork. And then life happened, kids came along, work came along, there was not time to paint. So when I retired from Virginia Western Community College, I actually picked up a paintbrush again and realized just how much I loved the creative arts and being involved in those. So I took a class through the Lifelong Learning Institute up at Virginia Tech, fell in love with watercolor, and have been doing watercolor ever since, expanding some into alcohol ink and acrylic pours, but primarily watercolor. Using the creative medium and the watercolor to explore different ideas and concepts that I'm passionate about. A lot of paintings that I've done have been of horses because I'm a horse person. I have 3 of my own and I care for 8. And then a lot of the paintings I've done have been of wildlife that we've seen around our farm. Raccoons, foxes, chipmunks, squirrels, things that just give us some joy in our day-to-day life.
Leah's own horses have served as an inspiration, but it's the plight of a herd on the other side of the country that inspired a painting on the Sisterhood of the Second Act set.
Okay, the painting that you've got on the set right now is titled Salt River Mustangs. Salt River is an area in northwest Arizona, southwest Colorado, where there are several fairly large herds of wild mustangs. And in recent days, months, the Bureau of Land Management has been rounding up these wild horses, and some of the older ones, some of the younger ones have been sent off to slaughter. So I wanted to try to capture the essence of the wild Mustang as much as I am capable of while we still have them to enjoy.
Animals aren't Lee's only inspiration. An act of love prompted her to paint another work you can see on the Sisterhood set.
The gift it represents an image of an older gentleman, I would have to say probably in his 70s, maybe his 80s, and he's carrying a bouquet of hand-picked wildflowers to his wife. And I like the idea that tells me you're never too old for a little bit of romance in your life, and you're never too old for love in your life. So it was a joyous painting to work on.
No matter what the subject matter, Lee hopes her work inspires the viewer to feel.
One of the things that I try to show is the emotion of the subject matter and that sense of being that you see in it. When I'm painting sailboats, I want you to feel the movement of the water and the rocking of the boat on the water. I actually had the opportunity when I was young to live on a sailboat for 6 months. Don't ever want to do it again, but there's something special about the movement of the water underneath you when you're living on a boat. So I try to capture that emotion that you might feel from looking at the topic. When I have a creative idea hit me, it becomes a real challenge because I have to paint it. It's not a question of wanting to paint it. That subject will haunt me until I get it down on paper or canvas because it speaks to me and I hope it speaks to you. But you get that urge that says, I have to do this. I have to capture this. I have to try to make this as moving and real as possible so that you get the same pleasure looking at it that I had creating it.
Susan McLaren's work is also gracing the walls of the Sisterhood of the Second Act set. For Susan, painting fills a void.
I started painting out of necessity. I had my job was as an RN in the healthcare field, and I was in management, and I became ill. I had a sudden hearing loss and had some other things that were going on at the same time, so I wasn't able to do my job. And I also my hobby was music, so I couldn't perform my musical hobbies as well, so I ended up looking for something to keep me occupied, and just by mistake ran into someone that was teaching watercolors, and I had not painted since high school. So I started talking to him about taking classes, and I had never painted in watercolors because I always thought they were too hard. So I started taking classes from him and just fell in love with doing watercolors. And that has just grown. That's been about 13 years now. And I started doing watercolors as well as some pen and inks, and it just sort of broadened out from there. I was doing acrylics and playing with different mediums, and found out that I had an affinity for it, and it was a creative outlet since I couldn't do my music anymore, so that's how I started.
Susan is one of the artists whose art serves as a backdrop for Sisterhood of the Second Act.
It used to be I couldn't even go to a music program and not cry because I couldn't, participate, but it has definitely provided an outlet for the creativity, as well as just giving you a purpose, to be able to be out there. So I've just been blessed that I can do the art, and I'm enjoying it. Part of the process for me is learning something new. I always like to learn something new, and that's part of what I like the most about the creative process, because there's so many things that you could just pick and choose from to learn a new process or a new technique, or even experimenting with different papers. There's just so many options that it always keeps me stimulated, because I'm not one of these that can just sit down and do one thing, and paint it over and over again. I have to be playing with stuff constantly to see what's out there. Like, it never occurred to me that you could paint on things like rice paper and different types of paper and have these unique effects until I saw some other work and started asking questions. So I would try to take classes of different techniques. And then as you get exposed to more and more people in the art world and more things that are offered, I saw acrylics, and I hadn't done acrylics since high school. So that was a fun branching out, and I'm still enjoying those. And I'm probably do watercolors is probably still my favorite. Oh, the most important thing for me is it's that things that people love. That I want them to look at it and either evoke some kind of emotional response in them. Either a feeling of warm fuzzy or funny. You know, I tend to do things that are sort of whimsical and fun because that's what makes me happy. So I think it should make other people happy. So, but I think that's the biggest thing, is to have an emotional connection to pieces that you buy, and yet that you have to fall in love with it. You know, and that's what buying art is about, is to have things that you can surround yourself with that you just love and it makes you feel good.
The art on the Sisterhood set changes regularly, so keep checking back to see what inspires these Virginia artists.
I want to thank Lee and Susan for sharing their art with us. You can see their work at sisterhoodofthesecond-act.com. We'll be back to wrap up the show after this.
Kathy's wardrobe provided by Cabby stylist Darlene Marshall. See the styles in our show notes at sisterhoodofthesecond-act.com.
See where a grateful nation remembers its heroes, and where Thomas Jefferson came to relax. Where small town charm is just down the road from big outdoor adventures. Find peace and quiet, as well as the sounds of family fun. Destination Bedford is located where the Piedmont Plateau meets the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia. Where ordinary ends, Bedford begins.
There's more inside the hemp mill than CBD products. There's a community. Stop in for Friday's Coffee Talk to enjoy free hemp coffee and treats. Patent-pending products made from hemp for anxiety, pain relief, and organic healthy eating. Cannabinoid products you can trust because the hemp is locally grown, processed, and formulated by us with patent-pending formulations. That includes our Pet Calm and dog biscuits. The Hemp Mill, women-owned and operated with nutritional offerings, local cards, gifts, jewelry, and trending fashions made by women-owned businesses. TheHempMill.net.
Where there is nothing, artists see something. Where there is silence, they hear a melody. Where there is beauty, they create even greater beauty. In a region known for its beautiful mountain surroundings, our vibrant arts community makes the Allegheny Highlands a more colorful place to live and visit. Our passion for the arts is endless, and it's uniquely Allegheny.
If you're a diabetic, we have great news. You can end the painful finger sticks with a new CGM. Plus, they may be covered by Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. If you test and inject daily, you may qualify. Call US Med now to learn more.
800-472-8060. 800-472-8060. 800-472-8060. That's 800-472-8060.
I want to thank Anita Price for being with us today and sharing her knowledge of African American culture and how it has impacted our community. And if you want to support the artists featured on today's show, go to newmoonnetwork.com. I'm Kathy Heberle. Join us next week for another edition of Sisterhood of the Second Act.